Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, live via ABC Radio Satellite Services. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you, Marty White. Good morning, folks. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us today. Ride along with me this hour, and we'll talk cars or fuel or oil or you name it. Consider me your personal car consultant. For all of you who are tuned in to watch Bobby Live, I love it that you come in from across the globe. In fact, we've had people from Iran, and we've had Israel, and all points in between. I'll tell you, it's unbelievable what the internet can provide. So we use all of the social media. We use all of the HD and the high definition video we use, and we come to you at watchbobbylive.com and also on your local AM and or FM stations. Miss Jan is standing by. We'll take your call at 888 Car Clinic. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by General Tire. Now, through October 15th, you can receive a Visa rebate card for up to $70 with the purchase of 4 qualifying General Tires. From all season to off-road, drive to GeneralTire.com for more information. General Tire, anywhere is possible. Bobby Likis Car Clinic, today is possible. I'll answer your car questions at 888-227-2546. Coming up, Jim from Detroit with an automotive report, and then your calls at 888-227-2546. And I've got some information about collecting data as you drive. Are the car makers doing it? You'll find out. Stay tuned. Need new tires? Between now and October 15th, General Tire is making trails, and you can receive a Visa rebate card for up to $70 with the purchase of 4 qualifying General Tires. From the ultra-high-performance G-Max AS03 to the all-new Grabber X3 for extreme mud, dirt, and rock, General Tire has a tire that'll help get you there. For more information, drive over to GeneralTire.com. Remember, with General Tire, anywhere is possible. The weather's going to turn soon, and you're probably going to get your home heating system ready for winter. What about your car's heating system? Specifically, the thermostat. Consider a superstat from Stant. Your vehicle's thermostat is critical for precise engine temperature control. It leads to better gas mileage, optimum performance, and lower emissions. Stant's Superstat is the professional's choice. It's a premium-grade thermostat that performs better and lasts longer. Don't get left out in the cold. Learn more at Stant.com. That's Stant.com. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Extreme, way out there sports are impressive, but the grueling testing of E15 by the U.S. Department of Energy is in a league all its own. E15, or 15% ethanol blended fuel, has undergone the most robust and rigorous fuel testing done to date. For example, in a Department of Energy study, a subset of 86 vehicles driven more than 6 million miles, that's the equivalent of 12 round trips to the moon, on test tracks and dynamometers were torn down and inspected. Result: no discernible difference in engine wear between test fuels in vehicles made in model years 2001 and later, as approved by the EPA. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. Drive to ethanolrfa.org. That's ethanolrfa.org.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, folks, let's get started. I wanted to share with you before we go to Detroit with Jim that this past month has been an all-time record in the service shop. And what that tells me is that because there are cars out there, the average age is a little over 11 years of the automobiles, there's a lot of repair and a lot of maintenance that needs to be performed on automobiles. And what we find is that, and what has really driven a lot of business to our door is, number one, we spend time with individuals in their cars. And we find that's an advantage because, you know, quite candidly, although we have certified master ASE technicians, in fact, we're a Blue Seal shop, and in a Blue Seal shop, you must have at least 75% of your technicians that are ASE certified, and for us, that's 100%. So we qualify for that, but even with all those qualifications, most car owners are not familiar with Master ASE certified. They hear us talking about it, but you really don't know what that means. But it means that that individual that's working on your car has, in our case, gone to UWF, University of West Florida, and taken courses and passed a grueling test that certify that individual as knowing how to work on certain parts of the car. A master goes through all 8 categories and is a master ASE certified in all 8 categories. And then there are 3 or 4 L series, which are additional added diplomas and degrees that you can get. I call it like the doctorate degrees that you get in the automotive technician world. And indeed, that's who you want to work on your automobile when you go into any shop, whether it's Bobby Likis Car Clinic Service pre-repair or it's John Hall Chevrolet in Daytona Beach. Regardless whether it's a dealership or otherwise, if someone's not certified, then you're just hoping that they do a good job. It doesn't mean that if they're certified, they're going to do a good job, because we're all human, and also we're working on always used equipment. And used equipment, as a rule, fails in certain categories for multiples of reasons, not just one. A water pump goes out, right, well, okay, your water pump. But when a water pump goes out, there are other things that should be performed. And number one, the cooling system should be serviced when you replace the water pump, because it was that environment and the loss of additives in the old coolant that maybe not caused the water pump to go out, but certainly affected its life of the water pump and hoses and those sorts of things. Also, the thermostat. You should always replace the thermostat when you replace a water pump. And so many times an owner will, well, not necessarily true today, because thermostats are so hard to get to, and they're an integrated and integral part of the cooling system. And you're going to see, believe it or not, electronically assisted thermostats. In fact, I was talking with the engineers at Stant, and I sat down maybe 45 minutes and talked with the engineer at Stant at SEMA show last year. And we talked specifically about electronic thermostats. Said, well, how does that work? And basically, what an electronic assisted thermostat does is it brings the operating temperature of the engine up faster and reacts more quickly, because the heat of the water, the coolant inside the engine, affects the coils in a regular thermostat, which is called the motor. It's a weir valve and called a motor. You hear me talk about the Stant Superstat, which is our choice. But in this electronic, it's an assisted thermostat. Now, if the electronics fails, the thermostat works as normal. It's just that prior to if electronics fails, prior to the thermostat opening on its own, there are electronic methods to heat up the weir valve and heat up the motor, rather. And the motor is not, as you think, an electric motor or what have you. It is looks like a pellet, looks like a half of a 45 round is what it looks like, and inside is wax that impregnated with material that swells when it gets hot. So as it heats up, it swells, and this bullet or this shell spreads apart and pushes against the spring. So when you see a thermostat, the spring doesn't open it, the spring closes it. it's very interesting how it's made. It's kind of simple, but on the other hand, what it does for your engine is, of course, very important, because an engine that runs 125 degrees wears 5 times as rapidly as that same engine that runs 200 degrees. That's according to Ford Motor Company. So if you have a problem with your vehicle and you take the thermostat out, all you're doing is a disservice to your engine. Anyway, those are a little food for thought. A little later, I'm going to get into the data collection of what the automobile manufacturers are doing and some of the insurance companies are doing as you drive your automobile. But now let's go to Detroit and talk with Jim. And then while Jim and I are discussing what he brings to the table today with regard to the updates, it's a good time for you to get in. Miss Jan will take your call at 888 Car Clinic, which is 888-227-2546. So, Jim, welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing pretty good with your announcement that we're worldwide right now. I think I'm the worldwide car clinic reporter.
Yes, sir, you are. You are that. And I'll tell you, Jim, we signed an agreement with Google, and we have our own YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel really has worked for us. And basically what it does, it provides people on the go to tune into the program with their phones, their iPads, their computers. So if you're away from your home where you normally tune in, like here in Pensacola, we have 1370 News Talk Radio, and we're live there. But if you're, say, in Atlanta, Georgia, and we don't have an affiliate nearby, or you're on the go, then certainly you can tune into your automobile and tune in to, not your automobile, but to your phone, and catch us at watchbobbylive.com. And what's really neat about that, and I'm going to get into this later after your report, is the data collection, because all cars are becoming connected cars. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I'll turn the mic to you. What do you bring us this morning?
Okay, agree with you on all connected cars, because that's going to make autonomous car drive better and drive safer.
Absolutely.
And I think it'll get Ford to wake up and explain the sync system to their purchasers of new cars, which takes advantage of that idea.
Yeah, really.
All right, let's talk about Buick's new car company that's going to be a sub-brand of the Buick. Is called Avenir, and Avenir is French for future. Oui, n'est-ce pas?
Yes.
Yeah, it means, yep, you're right.
It's I'll tell you though, Buick doesn't stand by. You know, this. If you remember, Oldsmobile, before they quit making Oldsmobiles, this is not your father's Oldsmobile. Well, Buick has come a long way, and you know, Jim, Cadillac has come a long way as well. And I say come a long way from where they were to where they are today. And I'm not sure that Lincoln. I am sure Lincoln has not caught up yet. You know, Lincoln is still trying to, I think, find its way in the sales arena with regard to luxury cars and what it once was. So and you know, I think most older drivers would buy the Lincoln, and so now the Lincoln says, well, we've got to appeal to a younger crowd and the next generation of car buyers. And I'm not sure they've done that, although they make a nice looking car. I don't know that, well, I do know I wouldn't personally buy one, but anyway, back to you.
All right, back to me, and I've been in Buicks since 1952. I took a trip with my dad and my uncle, my cousin, all the way from here to Pennsylvania, and even back then it was a big thrill for push-button electric windows, which are commonplace everywhere today. Let's go back to the Buick idea. Right now, Buick sells more than 1 million cars a year, and this new brand with the new fancy features on there are going to even inspire more sales of the Buick cars. Buick said 90% of its enclaves buyers already purchased one of the top 2 existing trims offered by Avenir. So people have been open to that, and their eyes are on it already, and it's going to go all the way with the new company.
I agree. I certainly do, and it's a specialty arena, and we all like to drive. You know, we all like to have something unique to us. And in the industry, the aftermarket industry, folks, that's called to personalize your car. And how do you personalize it? You order the paint color you want, the interior you want. You change the wheels to what you'd like to have, and thanks to SEMA. And all the hot rodders and the aftermarket companies that make aftermarket parts, the manufacturers now caught on, and so if you want a special wheel, you can order, you know, up to 4 or 5 different wheels on any make or model automobile almost today. So the manufacturers attend the SEMA, as they do the Consumer Electronics Show, so that they can see what's coming down the pike, and then they'll latch on to, if something works, they'll, just like tonneau covers for a bed of a truck. There are so many options now that dealers install, or you can get from the factory, that have been created by aftermarket individuals. So that's a tough decision to be if you're aftermarket. Well, hey, do I make this part and sell it in the aftermarket? And lo and behold, the manufacturer comes out with a very similar part because that idea turned out to be a good one. But that's just the way it goes. Jim, stay right there, and folks, you stay right there. We have a hard break coming up. We'll come back and we'll hear more from Jim and take your calls at 888-227-2546.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts, and your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with power frame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with power frame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with power frame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with power frame technology inside. Look for power frame on the outside and know there's true strength on the inside.
Folks, we're testing an Intune i2 performance programmer from Diablo Sport, and we'll share feedback and results over the next few months. First is ease of installation. Directions were clear and the setup was easy. The Intune i2 is preloaded with dyno and street-tested performance programs developed specifically for your car or truck, ensuring optimal power and drivability gains. From there, you can then customize a tune tailored to your own performance needs. What a great way to boost power without even popping the hood. Diablo Sport Intune i2 has a fantastic look and now features the latest generation ARM processor for a higher resolution screen and an exceptionally responsive touchpad. You can update your i2 software on virtually any computer. Windows, Mac, Linux, and update times are fast. Even the large updates take no more than 5 minutes. I'll report more to you about the Intune i2 in the coming weeks. In the meantime, check out the i2 for yourself at DiabloSport.com. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
I'm 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad you joined us today. Come along and ride with us. We're talking with Jim. And Jim, I'll turn the mic back to you. What else did you bring us this morning, sir?
Okay, in this worldwide show, by your side, we're going to talk about the feds close a sudden breaking investigation to Jeep SUVs. All the tests have shown that any problem was not a big one, and no accidents were reported, so they are removing that investigation to go further, which is good news for Jeep.
Well, Jeep's come a long way. You know, you and I were talking about the Lincoln and the Cadillac and the newer cars and the Avignard, the Buick's new line, and Jeep has managed to retain the original Jeep lover And it reminds me of Subaru. You know, people that buy Subaru will buy one or two or three of them. As Saturn early on was a very much had a following, and people, including our Miss Jan, had a couple of Saturns. And so now she drives Hyundais now because they no longer make the Saturn. But the bottom line, people like to buy those cars, and to see an automobile manufacturer move forward and go into the future and still retain that look, the Jeep look, and yet have a new Jeep that's coming out that looks and feels and drives and with all the latest technology, that's a big deal. A little later in the show, I'll talk about the new Rapture from Ford Motor Company, the F-150 Rapture, which is unbelievable in the horsepower that it puts out. But yeah, you're right there. There's no question that Jeep is a great selling car, and they've done a great job. Glad to see that they're kind of off the hook for that recall now.
Well, speaking of new ideas, Ford is going to have shared driving in vans that pick up a group of people to work. I propose that I like that better than the idea of somebody else sharing your car if you're retired, if you're not using it that day. I like the idea of them going to work in groups in a van to save money. And one projected report says in 10 years, many people will not be in large cities wanting to own their own individual car.
Yeah, that's I have a tough time with that one, Jim. I mean, I know the series, and I know that it's application sensitive. You know, if you've got a lot of workers at one plant and they meet at a certain location, or they have one van that picks them up at their own route, and then they all go together, that works pretty well. But there's always one or two people that over a course of a couple of months that has to opt out due to circumstances, and so it'll be interesting to see. For me, it's taking away the freedom. So that's the car guy coming out in me now. I want to have my car, so I can't see myself being part of that crowd. But maybe you make good points there. What else did you bring us today, sir?
Okay, we're going to talk about the 2017 Ford 150 Raptor performance pickup.
Yeah,
and it has 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque out of an all-new EcoBoost engine and 10-speed transmission, which goes on sale later this year.
Well, that is, and I do have some information on that vehicle that I'm going to share with our listeners a little bit later on in the show. It's just amazing to me how you take an engine like that and you bump up 39 more horsepower and 76 pound-feet over the engine that's going out, and it's the same 3.5 engine. So just how much energy or power or performance did Ford hold back when they made that engine? And then they trickle it out. Of course, 76 pound-feet of torque is not not doling it out. 39 horsepower, that's a ton. That just shows you folks that if you're driving a Ford, it doesn't have to be a Rapture, but if you're driving an EcoBoost Ford engine, you can modify that. And I'm going to share a little bit later on with a Diablo Sport, because we've got a report from the two that we've installed, and also we had a winner of one that modified his car, his truck, and it really makes a difference. So just because you're driving a vehicle that's computer controlled, don't think that it can't be changed and modified for higher performance, because the factory does it every year. They take the same engine and they bump it 6 horsepower or 10 horsepower, and you think, well, gosh, you would think that over a series of years that they would reach the maximum. So I'm not sure what the maximum would be.
Well, I think eventually, whether it's electric car or gas-driven, that many of your cars will be souped up more while you park them at night, receiving that new improvement to the car right on the air.
Yeah, now. Hey, now you're talking Tesla language. Jim, thank you so much for your report today, and always a pleasure to have you join us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Always glad to be in gear on the Bobby Likis Show.
Thank you, sir. And folks, that's really interesting about the Rapture that Jim was just sharing with us. That vehicle, just for you to know, gets new tires, and which is news. And Ford has done a great job on this vehicle. It gets drive modes, which is news, and it gets more gears, which is news. How many more gears? 10-speed. So here you've got, and think about it. Why do you need 10 speeds? Well, because you drive in town, and because you drive on the highway, and then you could possibly drive towing. So you can't have one transmission, or historically, let me clarify that. Historically, you can't have one transmission with 3 or 4 gears or 5 gears that can be all things to all speeds and keep that engine in its torque range. Remember, whether I'm a 5'7" guy, so if I'm jogging with a 6'2" guy, I'm over there pumping my legs as fast as I can pump, and he's just kind of trotting along because of the gait. Well, the same thing is true for your engine. It has a gait, and that gait is it's called its torque range, and that's where you get the most bang for the buck in miles per gallon is torque. So if an engine likes to turn, say 2,300, 2,500, which is as a rule for an internal combustion engine, not a diesel, as a rule, that's where the torque curve is happy. So if you can keep that engine in its sweet spot, we call it, where it provides the greatest amount of torque with the least amount of RPM, which produces the most amount of gas mileage. You get it? You got performance, you got gas mileage, and so, but that's true at 35 miles an hour in third gear, second gear. But what about at 70 miles an hour? Well, that would be true in sixth gear. Well, what about at 75 miles an hour? Well, now you're in the 10th gear. And once you get up to 70, 75 miles per hour, then you're into that 10th gear, and now the engine is laid way back, and it's probably cruising at 20 to 2,000 RPM or less. And what this really does, this being how the 10-speed transmission that Ford has, it allows them to use a lower ratio rear differential, which gives the truck the launching power. So if you're pulling your boat out of the water, or you're pulling a small utility trailer, or whatever, you can have your cake and eat it too. And that is really important. The final figures that, as Jim said, but the final figures show an increase of 39 horsepower and 76 pound-feet of torque over the outgoing 6.2-liter V8. So here's a 3.5 V6 that is outperforming the 6.2 V8. But I think that's really important. Now I want to shift gears because I want to share with you what's relevant to the vehicle that you drive. And this comes from Clinton Hayworth, and he tunes in from our Daytona station, WNDB 1150 AM News Talk Radio and 1340 FM. I think it's 1340. Correct me if I'm wrong, folks, in Daytona. But he sends me a note about his, and he was a winner, if you'll remember, of the Diablo Sport Intune i2 programmer. He says, "Hi, Bobby. I'm excited to report back about the ease of tuning my F-150 with the Intune i2 from Diablo Sport. The best part is being able to turn off the auto stop start feature. The advanced tune option has this option available. However, it was only able to turn off the auto stop start feature for about 5 cycles of full braking pedal. I've tried all of the 3 versions of tuning. The current 93 octane tuning will chirp the tires from first to second. But since most of my driving is back and forth to work, I'll probably tune to the 87 octane, which boasts the most bang for the buck with a low octane fuel. Even with the 87 octane tune, I can hear the turbo inhale with acoustics of vengeance, his words, folks, for anything that stands in its way. Once again, I graciously honor the opportunity to be a lucky winner of the Car Clinic broadcast promotions. Many blessings, Clint." And folks, that's really terrific. You can take a quick tour of Diablo Sport's latest programmer at diablosport.com. And if you drive one of the following cars, you don't want to miss out on upgrading your vehicle's performance. And those cars are trucks and cars: Ram, a Buick, Cadillac, Ford, Dodge, Saturn, a Saturn, Saab, Mazda, GMC, Hummer, Isuzu, Jeep, Lincoln, and Pontiac. And so there are some of those cars, like the Pontiac, still on the market. But the bottom line, the Diablo Sport Intune i2 programmer, you can plug it into the data port of the automobile, and in 5 minutes, it will save the existing factory specs, and it will insert, according to what you put in, whether you want 93 octane or 87 octane, whether you change the tire size or the rear differential gear, and it will tune the motor to that particular parameter. I'm telling you, it's a great opportunity and it's a great product, and we install one on our general manager's father's F-150 EcoBoost, and what he loves about it more than anything else is the performance. And he says the gas mileage is about the same, which I think is incredible, because when your car is performing or your truck is performing like his is, and you enjoy chirping that tire from first to second gear, it just tells me that his right foot is a little heavy. And the fact that he's getting the same gas mileage as before means that he's getting an increase in gas mileage. If he would just ease off the pedal just a little bit, he would get more. But that just goes to show you that you've got the power to pull, you got the power for performance, and you've got the economy. So hats off to Diablo Sport. It's a great product. I'll open the phones for you now. If you're trying to get in and it's busy, Miss Jan will take your call at 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. Again, I want to thank all of the local folks for their confidence in my team for this past September, which was a record. And it was a record in the way of not financial. It was a record in the customer sat surveys that we received. It was a record in the number of cars that we have left over. I mean, there's some 22 cars in our shop today, right now, waiting for Monday for us to get working on, and more even coming. And that just shows the quality of performance of work that my team puts out at Bobby Likis Car Clinic Pre-Repair. Hey, I'm going to take a short break. I'll be back and take your calls. Don't touch that dial. This Tire Maintenance Minute is brought to you by General Tire and the Ultimax RT43. Featuring replacement tire technology, the Ultimax RT43 lets you know if it needs replacing. Ultimax RT43, a smarter tire for a smarter driver. President Abraham Lincoln can help you measure tire depth. How? Insert a penny, Abe's head first, into the lowest point of the tire tread. If the top of Abe's head disappears, your tread's okay. But tread depth isn't the only safety factor. Tire age counts also. And time is not on your tire's side. As rubber compounds deteriorate, cracks develop which can cause steel belts in the tread to separate from the rest of the tire, compromising drivability and safety. Best advice is to consult your local tire professional on when to replace. General Tire's Ultimax RT43 actually extends the life of the tire by visually identifying vehicle misalignment. Talk about a smarter tire. For more, visit GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. So if you're thinking about buying a new pickup for 2017, the F-150 Raptor will be a great choice. Price starts at $49,520, and you go from there. And most of those new trucks are in the $55,000 and $60,000 range, but I'll tell you, if you're looking for high performance, this is a beast. How do you use a beast? Now think about it. It's almost sacrilege, because if you thought about an F-150 Ford pickup, you always thought about V8s. And to have a 6-cylinder was like, well, you know, you couldn't afford a big engine. And now if you've got a V8, oh, you couldn't afford an EcoBoost V6. It shows you the technology and the changing of the times and the changing of the engines that we're seeing coming from the OEMs. Very interesting to me. Again, that's the 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor. It's one bad machine with 450 horsepower out of 3.5 liters with 2 turbochargers, 93 octane fuel. So and I'll tell you what, you could put E25, which is ethanol 25% and 75% gasoline, and then use the Diablo Sport tuner and get another 35 horsepower out of that same engine. Even more. So have we seen the maximum? Not yet. We're going to go to Jerry in South Carolina now and take a call. We'll take your call, Jan Will, at 888-227-2546. Jerry, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
I got a 93 F-150 with a V8.
Okay.
On the oil pressure gauge on the dash, when I stop at a red light, it'll start jumping. It jumps all the way back and forth. I don't know where it's my oil pressure switch or the gauge switch. The gauge.
Gauge, yeah, right.
But my oil pressure, when the motor's running, and it's around town driving all the time.
Right.
When the motor's running, the pressure switch is up by halfway like it should be. And I just wondered, was that my oil pump doing that or my gauge?
No, Jerry, it wouldn't be the oil pump. Now, let me ask you a question. When does it jump? If you say around town it's like it's normal, when does it jump?
When I stop at a red light.
Okay, and
it starts jumping back and forth.
And so, is it true to say that that the gauge flickers? In other words, it jumps up and down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jumps
well, see, that is
down.
a gauge, because hydraulic pressure cannot go from 20 psi to 60 and back to 20, because it's cumulative. It accumulates. So
would it be my oil pressure switch?
Could be. Here's what I would suggest, because that's the least expensive, easiest change. I would just put a new switch in it and see what that does for you. Now, in my heart of hearts, I think you could have a shorted wire. The wire that goes down, and that's what you want to look at first, the wire that goes to the oil pressure switch, if it touches a ground, it'll make the pressure go to the top. It'll peg the gauge, because that's a ground-seeking unit. And that pressure switch on the engine has like a rheostat, and the more pressure you have, the more it grounds inside. It has a wiring that's inside the pressure switch. So if the wire that goes down to the switch is touching metal between the dash and under the hood, then wherever it touches something that's idling and shaking, it could make the gauge flicker. So the first thing to do would be to locate the oil pressure switch, and then look at the wire in the vicinity of the engine, and you can follow it back up the loom as much as you can tell. A lot of times there are clips or clamps or brackets that hold looms in place, and those looms get cracked because of the age, and then the wire can sag, and that causes a problem because it grounds the wire. So either way, the cheapest and the least expensive thing for you to do is to look for the wire. If you can't find anything, it's obviously grounded. Just unplug the wire. if you and be careful just to unplug the wire from its connector at the oil pressure switch. Then crank it up, and if you still have a gauge that moves at all, if it jumps at all, you'll know that it's not the oil sender switch on the engine, it's in the wire somewhere or it's in the dash somewhere. Got it?
You got it. Of course, I don't think it hurt my engine.
No, it won't hurt your
still, I
engine,
want
but you got to be in a position where you trust the gauge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause when I stop at a traffic light, it'll sit there a second, it'll start jumping back and forth, and forth. And when I speed the motor up, it quits.
Well, replace the oil sender switch and see what happens, because that's the easiest, least expensive first action, okay?
Yeah, I know it's not like the old V8s where the oil pressure switch is right there where the oil,
no.
oil
We put a
behind the motor.
Yeah, we put an oil pressure switch on a mid-sized Jaguar this week, an 06 model, and we had to drop the AC compressor down to get to the switch, which was located on the engine, but the AC compressor was too close. So in order to get on to the switch, we had to drop the AC compressor. And when I have to say that Johnny Bars, our ASC Master Certified Technician, actually literally did the job in less than an hour. So it was one of those where you just had to take something out of the way. You might have tried to repair it, but ultimately, in the world of automobile repair, it's best just to get whatever is in the way out of the way, and then you can do a better job and put that back. Hey, thanks for your call, Jerry.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Day.
You as well, sir. 888-227-2546 if you have a call or a question or just want to talk cars. I do have gas prices for you today. And the average gas price is $2.22 national average a gallon. That's regular grade. And the price is down in 5 of the 10 regions from what it was a week ago. It's up in 5 regions from what it was a week ago, and it's down in 2 regions, it's up in 2 regions from what it was 1 year ago. Now, the weekly price always fluctuates, so I don't really pay too much attention to the weekly price because it's up and down in different regions. But I do pay attention to what it was a year ago. So this is an indication in those regions. The East Coast is up 2 cents, and then the lower Atlantic is up 7 cents. So when you look at that, that's an indicator that we're starting to see the gas price kind of inch its way back up, especially when you look at where it was a year ago and now we look at. So I'll share that with you on a weekly basis on the gas prices and help you to better determine just what's going on with gas prices across the board. 888-227-2546. Data. I want to now go into the data that your car collects and who can use it. So you heard about the black boxes, and I found this really interesting. Newer cars that connect to the internet also collect a lot of data about the drivers, such as where you went to dinner, if you broke the speed limit, or if your seatbelt was buckled. And you think about this, when you buy a car, you just give control to your car company. Most automakers say that they won't sell the information without an owner's consent, but they're not legally required to inform you if they do. So you think about that. Here's the bottom line. The car data is about to become a big business. And a new report from a consulting firm, McKinsey, says automotive data could be worth $450 billion to $750 billion by 2030. Think about that. Automakers, insurers, high-tech firms, site planners, and advertisers are among city planners and advertisers are among those who could use data to refine services. Drivers could share data in exchange for navigation systems, or they could pay extra for perks like a parking spot finder. And I have another release that Mercedes is coming out with a software for a parking lot. So if you're looking for a parking space and you drive the new Mercedes, it will tell you where there's a place in line. Now, there's a price to pay for that, and that's called privacy. So I have information about which cars collect data, and just under 30% of the new cars sold globally now can be linked to the internet, according to the intelligence firm's BI. That figure is expected to reach 75% by 2020. So 75% of the new cars are going to be able to tell you and tell the manufacturers how fast you go, how slow you go. And just for that, my insurance company sent me a transponder, a dongle, and I have it in my car, and I get reports at the end of every day of how many miles I drove that day. So is my insurance company collecting that data? Yes, they are. And it's State Farm. And I agreed to that. So I'm going to see how that works. And what do I get out of it? I get a lower insurance premium because I don't speed and because I drive. You know, they couldn't believe it when I said I drive, 8,000 miles a year. In one of my cars, I don't even drive it. So they're going to question the report that I give on that because the mileage will be 2 miles per year or 4 miles per year. That's the Porsche that I have that's a collector's car. It'll be really interesting. I also have a Viper that I rarely drive anymore, maybe go 500 miles in a year's time. So in order to report this to the State Farm, I take a picture of the speedometer and I connect that dongle that they sent me to my phone, and it uses my phone to send that signal to State Farm on a daily basis. So we'll see how that works out. 888-227-2546. If you have a question, I'll take your call at Jan will and put you in the queue, and I'll put you on the air. So I guess the question would be, folks, if you might want to think, do you own that data that's collected? Well, that's unclear. Under federal law, drivers own data stored in event data recorders or black boxes, which monitors the vehicles in a crash. The police and insurers need a driver's consent or a court order to get that data, but there are no laws addressing data collected by automakers through vehicle internet connections. So, if the black box is yours, it's in your car, and that data belongs to you, and the same data is going out over the internet, but there's no particular rule, how do you know? Well, you can read the owner's manual. And in the owner's manual, probably in the fine print somewhere in that whole book, there's going to be words and paragraphs that says your car is capable of and may be recording data and collecting data, sending to the vehicle manufacturer. When you buy the car, you automatically agree that this term unless you disagree. So you have to opt out. And I think that's going to be interesting. Now, can the automaker sell the data without your knowledge? They could, depending on language in the owner's manual. But under voluntary principles established by the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers in 2014, most agreed to get permission before sharing anything about a driver's location, health, or behavior with third parties. And to that end, 20 companies, including GM, Toyota, Ford, Hyundai, and Mercedes-Benz, signed that agreement, which is effective by the 2017 model year. So can you stop an automaker from collecting the data? Most automakers let the owners opt out, but that's usually buried in fine print. And this is according to Kalea Barnes, a former associate director of the nonprofit Electronic Privacy Information Center, who now works on privacy issues for the federal government. For example, some GM owners' manuals tell people about data storage, but they must track down separate policies to learn more. Okay, let's look at the benefits. 888, let me give you the number if you have a question about this, because it's your information. 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Are there benefits to sharing the data? Yep. Upon a driver's request, GM will send driving data to insurance companies like Progressive and State Farm, there you are, to see if the driver qualifies for lower rates. OnStar will send coupons to your phone for businesses along your route. So you're driving down the road and you're coming up to a city and you're hungry, you'll automatically get your car, it's being recorded where you are. So unless you opt out, you'll get on your phone a coupon from maybe a restaurant along the way, which that could be kind of neat, I guess. The Tesla collects data and to improve the cars via software updates. So it's interesting. There's evidence that people aren't fretting about data sharing. I'm not fretting about it. But there are people that are. I don't know that you would want to be that open with your information. But if you drive a new car, just remember that you may well already be there consenting if your car is connected to the internet. And if it's a GM, more than likely it is connected because OnStar was the leader in connectivity. So you're going to see that more and more. And you're going to see safer cars, so it's going to save lives. So it's just another high-tech part of the automobile industry as we see it. So that's the report for you today. Thank you for tuning in this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We've got another hour coming up, so if you have a question or you wanted to ask one, you just didn't get around to it, feel free to give us a ring at 888 Car Clinic. In the meantime, take care of your car and yourself and have a great weekend. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're moving fast and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. Be sure the next time your car needs a new battery, you choose one with PowerFrame grid technology inside. It's not only 66% more durable than other grid designs, it's manufactured with the latest and most sustainable processes. Look for PowerFrame on the outside for true strength on the inside. Visit PowerFrame.com to find a retailer near you. That's PowerFrame.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemurs. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you, Marty White. Welcome, folks, to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Stick around and ride along with me. I guess today you would call me the alternative to football. Mainly because there are so many pre-show games or pre-game shows on that talk football. In fact, this afternoon at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 Eastern, Alabama plays again, and that's going to be an interesting game. So I thought that what I would do is record that. So this morning before I left the house for the studio here, I tuned it in to record, and lo and behold, they were already talking football. And this is like 8 o'clock in the morning. So I want to talk cars. And then we can all go to football a little bit later on. So I'll open the phones. Miss Jan will take your call and put you in the queue at 888 Car Clinic. And you and I will talk cars. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. 1 out of 4 batteries will fail sooner or later. Get yours tested for free during Super Start Battery Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. And if it needs to be replaced, O'Reilly has the Super Start battery for you. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. I'm going to come back, take your calls at 888-227-2546. I'll put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. Don't touch that dial.
Pick up Peak Universal Premixed Antifreeze and Coolant for $7.99 a gallon after mail-in rebate at O'Reilly Auto Parts and earn double O Rewards points on your purchase. Protect against damaging rust and corrosion with Peak Universal Premixed Antifreeze and Coolant at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This Vehicle Maintenance Spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Today's Spotlight is on you. Become an O Rewards member and start earning instantly on the parts you need to keep your vehicle running at its best. Earn $5 back for every $150 you spend, and earn your rewards twice as fast and on the go when you provide your email address. It's fast, easy, and free only at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Here's an email from a Car Clinic listener. David writes, "What's the amber light on my dash? It looks like a cork pointing at an angle to a picture on the side of the car. This light has been on and off for about a year now, and I think it's time I check it out." Well, David, no time like the present. The light indicates a detected failure that could allow gasoline fumes to evaporate into the air, costing you money in lost fuel and polluting the air. Most common failure that trips the light? A small evap leak, or in other words, loose fuel cap. Besides being tight, the cap must also be in good condition. Fuel caps don't last forever, and poor quality caps don't work well from the beginning. Stant makes a large line of fuel caps that will last a very long time and ensure proper sealing of the system. Stant fuel caps are the only aftermarket caps to include all the safety features of the original equipment cap. Visit Stant.com or ask your local parts store for a Stant gas cap by name.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Hospice isn't a place, it's a face. And Regency Hospice delivers more faces to you and your loved one when life matters most. Faces of nurses, nursing assistants, social workers, and chaplains. Regency's skilled, compassionate professionals deliver comfort and individualized care. When that time of life comes to you, Regency Hospice will be there for you. Go to RegencyHospice.com for more, including Hospice for Heroes Veterans Recognition Program.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's kick off this hour with some information about automobiles I'd like to share with you. I think you'd be interested, and then I'll take your calls. Actually, Miss Jan will take your call at 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. For 45 years, we've operated an automotive service shop. So when I come to you through your radio or your telephone or through our YouTube channel here, I share with you information that we learn and that we know works. So there's a difference between talking with your next door neighbor who has an opinion about your automobile problems, or someone who is not in the business. And that is like talking to your next door neighbor with regard to your medical, versus the doctor. You just wouldn't think of doing that, although you might discuss. But when you really wanted to be checked out, you would go to the doctor. So I would remind you that with regard to your automobile, the same thing is true. There's a lot of difference in today's car as compared to the cars of 5 years ago, much less 10 years ago. And the average age of cars on the street is 11 and a half years now. So when you think of the new cars and you think of the new technology, and then you think of repairs, and you think of the price of repairs and what the cost is, and then you think of, well, how can I save money? How can I maintain my car in a healthier condition? For me, that is probably the number one goal for all of the cars that I own and drive. I am, to put it briefly and shortly, I'm anal about my automobiles and their condition. And of the cars that I drive, I can simply add fuel to those cars, including a 1980 model collector's Porsche, and add fuel and drive those cars cross country. So that means the hoses, the belts, the fluids, the tires, the windshield wiper blades, and the cleanliness of the car is almost showroom ready. And I'm proud to say that. Am I bragging? Sure I am, because I'm proud of the condition that I maintain my automobiles in. Unlike the typical shade tree mechanic that you might think about that drives an old beater of a car, I don't drive beaters of cars. I never have. Even when I couldn't afford it, I spent whatever money I could to drive a newer car, and a car that was in healthy condition. So I want to share with you a program that we created, and whether you're owner or driver of an automobile or you're in the automotive service as this program that we created going on 10 years now has saved our customers a great deal of money, and that's called a pre-repair, and it's the prevention of repair. And I can tell you that not to be shocked, but preventive maintenance is obsolete because it's yesterday's news. It's incomplete. And when you think about preventive maintenance, you think about changing your oil and filter. Folks, that is so yesterday. On the other hand, it's where we are today that counts, and that is the program that began some 10 years ago for us that we created. It's called Pre-Repair, the Prevention of Repair. And basically, we know that if you can maintain the fluids, the lifebloods in your automobile, then that vehicle will live longer, and it will break down fewer times, and it will save you money. And to that end, you can compare the cost of pre-repair procedures, and for every $1 you spend on pre-repair, you save $6 in repair. And I think those figures these figures are some 8 to 10 years old, because that's when we first came up with this plan. But now you can service a transmission, or let's say power steering. You service a power steering and spend maybe $125 to service that fluid and change and flush that old fluid out and exchange it with new fluid. versus what a rack would cost, a power steering rack at $1,000. So that's about 10 to 1 almost, 8 to 1 certainly. So you want to make sure that you can do this, and it takes some forethought, and it takes some proactive measures on your part, and then it takes some communication with your local service provider, whether that is our shop or whether it's a new car dealership. And when you take your car in for service, and I recently had my car in for a warranty repair because of a cracked plastic part on the intake manifold, and it was leaking coolant. And so the dealer repaired it because it's under the warranty, had to pull the intake manifold off to gain access. They did a good job. They did send to me a list of things that they recommended, like changing the power steering fluid. I was proud to get this information, although we do that in-house here. But I was glad to see that the things that they recommended were items that were on our pre-repair list as well. I think it's important when you take your car in, whether it's to change oil and filter, and the technician walks out and says you need an air filter or a cabin air filter, and you say, well, I just want my oil filter changed. Just change the oil and filter and let it go. Don't do that. And remember that for those shops that are professionally run shops with ASE certified technicians, such as our shop, we don't even offer oil changes. We offer an inspection that includes an oil change, but it is the inspection that is worth its weight in gold, because every 7,000 miles or 5,000 miles, which is a trip from the East Coast to the West Coast and back, you need to have other things looked at: tire, tread wear, any leakage, condition of fluids, wiper blades, filters. Not only just oil and filter is a given. That's a given. And if you think that you've protected your car and you take care of your car, it's been a good car for you for a long time, oh yeah, I've changed the oil and filter regularly. That's just a part of the maintenance that is needed to maintain a healthy automobile. And the healthier you maintain your automobile, the less money it will take to maintain that automobile. And that is a given. Now, let's say you've got 75,000 miles and you want to start the pre-repair program. Is it too late? No, it's never too late. As I've said many, many times to my customers, it's never too late to quit smoking with your body, so it's never too late to start pre-repair with your automobile. Now, there's a protection plan that comes with our pre-repair that is a lifetime protection plan that puts a certain amount of dollars toward the repair of a system if it breaks down. We do not pay for that, nor do you pay for that protection plan. It is supplied to us by our vendor. Our vendor provides for us, we buy the fluids and we buy the machinery from our vendor that we use to service and maintain our cars. That vendor happens to be BG Products, and it's a great product, and we use it. In fact, we were partners with BG for many years on this program. You've heard me speak of this company. But even after our partnership ended on the broadcast side, I still use that product on the service side. Why? Because it's a great product. And because it is through that company that we are able to offer our customers under our pre-repair plan the protection plan. What does that mean? If you drive, say, a Denali with four-wheel drive, and we serviced every system, and let me give you a rundown of the systems. Really easy. You start at the front. Cooling system, power steering system, engine oil, transmission, transfer case, differential, brake fluid, and air conditioning systems. There's over $12,000 in cash ready to be spent on any of those systems set aside by the protection plan. It is a hell of a program. An example, there's $4,000 for engine. If we service a cooling system, so when, not if, when your water pump goes out, then you're going to get a new water pump up to $4,000. And there's a caveat. That's Tier 1. That starts at 36,000 miles or less. So you say, well, gosh, do I need to change the fluid at 30,000 miles, 36,000 miles? Yes, to get into the Tier 1. But what if you've got 40,000 miles on your car? What if it's out of the warranty and it's 5 years old and you have 60,000 miles? You can still qualify for the Tier 2 because that's up to 75,000 miles. So that's one of the services that we offer that saves our customers a lot of money. And we saved one of our customers $1,000 on a repair of a transmission just this past week. Got a hard break coming up. Come back, take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Some say ethanol causes phase separation of gasoline and water in your tank, which can cause corrosion. But here's the fact. Zero ethanol or all hydrocarbon gasoline can suspend about 0.15 teaspoons of water before it separates. E10, gasoline with 10% ethanol, can suspend about 4 teaspoons. That's over 26 times more. And contrary to popular belief, it's difficult, if not nearly impossible, to absorb enough water from the atmosphere to induce phase separation. At 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 70% relative humidity, to saturate a gallon of all hydrocarbon gasoline would take several months and much longer for an E10 blend. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. Drive to ethanolrfa.org. This Tire Maintenance Minute is brought to you by General Tire and the Ultimax RT43, a smarter tire for a smarter driver. Why do vehicles come with a tire that's rated to 150 miles per hour when everyday drivers don't drive that fast? A tire's speed rating indicates the maximum speed a tire is rated to spin before failure to perform as designed. But more than that, as speed ratings increase, tires are designed to perform better during conditions such as cornering, braking, and in emergency maneuvers. That's why you may find a V speed-rated tire on a vehicle that's electronically limited to a lesser speed. For the best performance, replace worn tires with the speed rating recommended by the vehicle manufacturer. The Ultimax RT43 is a stylish, all-season tire designed for a quiet, comfortable ride. And with technologically advanced features like replacement tire monitor and visual alignment indicator, the Ultimax RT43 really is a smarter tire for a smarter driver. Learn more at GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking about automotive repair and auto service shops and the program that we created. And I see that Tom has a question from Missouri. We're going to go there, but to that end, the WIFM, or what's in it for me, with regard to you, what's in it for you, when you go to a service shop. At our service shop, we have the pre-repair, and it's a breakdown avoiding, money-saving alternative to the old wait-and-see approach, and you get blindsided with a car that breaks down. I won't go any deeper into the program at this time, but let's go to Missouri and have Tom to join us. Tom, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Good morning, Bobby. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for asking, and yourself?
I'm well. I have a question about service shops.
Sure.
Where I am, I did a search on the ASE website not too long ago, and I think I did 25-mile search around my house, and I only found one ASE service shop in the whole entire area, and I know that shop, and man, they're always swamped. Hard to even get an appointment there, really.
Right.
But every shop I go to has some kind of certification on the wall, or this guy got this thing, or that guy got that thing. They got these little diplomas on the wall, but none of them are ASE. I think does ASA sound right? Or
well, ASA is
the reason I'm asking is because nobody has nobody can get into the architecture of your car. Other than the dealer, nobody can.
Yeah.
Nobody has the kind of setup you do, and I wish we had somebody around here like that.
Well, there's two different questions here, but number one, the ASA is the Automotive Service Association, which is not the same organization as ASE, Master Automotive Service Excellence Certification. But I send people all the time across the nation, like I would to you, to go to asashop.org. And did you use that site to search?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir, I did.
Now, that asashop.org would lead you to shops that are members of, and they pay dues to be a member of ASA. And those dues, I forget now, Miss Jan, a due for ASA is like $300, $400 a year, right? $300? Thank you. So we pay $300 a year to be a member of ASA Shop. They don't give us anything, but there's a code of ethics, and I say they don't give us anything. We don't buy anything for that membership, except that we're part of a cadre and part of a partnership that is a better educating body, and it's a not-for-profit organization that is there like the American Medical Association is for doctors. So what we have found, and what I have found, is that for shops that are paying members of ASA, it shows me that the owner of that shop is dedicated to the profession. Now,
well, that's what I always thought. And
sure,
I just don't.
Sure,
and don't have that many around here to choose from.
I don't understand that,
25
Tom.
mile radius, I got one shop to choose from.
Well, I don't understand that because usually I put in a 5-mile search and there'll be a half a dozen shops. Now,
we're pretty rural here.
Okay, well, let's shift gears. Let's talk about ASE. ASE is the Automotive Service Excellence, and there are classes and that are required, and there are certain programs that are required that are from engine, transmission, running gear, air conditioning, diesel engines, and their suspension, braking systems. So electronics, and the electronics is a real difficult one to pass. I say that because Johnny Bars is our shop foreman, our lead master ASE technician, and he has all 8 categories covered. Plus, he's going for doctorates in 2 other L2 category, which is a step above. And what that, and again, we're a Blue Seal shop, which is yet another dedicated. 75% of our technicians have to be ASE certified to become a Blue Seal shop. We're also AAA certified. Right. But then again, we spend a lot of time and energy, and the company spends a lot of money because we pay for all of that. We pay for any travel, we pay for any certifications, any classes, and there's always cost to go to classes. Now, getting back to what you said about the diplomas on the wall, there are classes that are offered, like O'Reilly Auto Parts has its vendors and its parts. So there might be a school put on by, I don't know, by maybe Delphi or maybe Delco or maybe Eklund, maybe some ignition company, or maybe Excel. And so they being O'Reilly Auto Parts manager, would come to us and say, we have a school. In fact, just for your information, we're hosting a class coming up later this month. And so other shops are going to come to our shop because the manager of the shop and the manager of the class asked if we would host and use our facility because we have 15,000 square feet and we have plenty of room. So I said all that to say that that's really important. It's important that, and you mentioned you can't get into the architecture. You're right, unless you have a scan tool, and those scan tools average about $5,000, and we just paid $1,500 to upgrade our Autel machine. And here's what we got out of that so far, just this week. We have a customer, Dr. Donna, is a customer who drives a BMW that we serviced, and the service engine light was still on when you turned the key on. And we couldn't get that thing to go out, but we got the service light to go out, but not the service engine light that comes on automatically. We use this Autel machine, and it is an expensive machine. We updated it, and just this has been ongoing for about a month or so. So we came in for an oil leak, which turned out to be a simple O-ring this past week. And while I was in, we plugged in the Autel machine that we just paid for the update on the software. Boom! It put the light out immediately. So it allowed us to go deeper into the architecture than we had previously been able to get into. So you're right. The shop that can provide these kinds of services equal what the dealer can bring to the table, because the OEMs must provide us with the information. Of course, we have to subscribe, and there's a cost to that, and that's
Right.
where it comes in.
What I was wondering about is, see, my service engine light came on, and I can't really find any problem with it. You know, I've been to the places, you know, and they'll plug it in and check it real quick, and they say it's the oxygen sensor. Well, it's always the oxygen sensor.
Yeah, I know. It could
I
be.
mean, that always shows up, and nobody. I don't want to just replace parts for no reason.
I agree. Well, you're going to have to find a shop that has. I don't understand how anybody could run a shop and not have a professional tool, because you cannot possibly locate, pinpoint, or test without having one of those. And we have a half a dozen of those machines, and every day, Tom, I ask Brennan, who is our general manager, what's the biggest bang for the buck? What can we buy one machine? What next do we buy? He said, Bobby, there's no one machine that can do it all. He said, we just spent $1,500 for the Autel update, and that's good for a year, by the way.
There's a lot of money.
Yeah,
I
that's
got
a lot of
another
money.
question for
Hey,
you
man,
real quick.
thanks for your call. It's a great question, and keep searching those sites and asking those questions, and finding the ASE certified technicians. Those guys know what they're doing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So let's go to another call. Take another call. 888 Car Clinic is the number for you to call. 888-227-2546. Rudolph in Washington. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, thank you, Bobby. Now, on that EcoBoost, is there a difference between the timing when the injection of the fuel is put in and then the spark? Do they have a little lag time for the mixing of the oxygen and the fuel before the spark, or
Absolutely. It's, you have to draw in the air. You compress that air, which creates a lot of heat, and then you spray direct injection fuel in, which atomizes the fuel, and then you light the match. So it's all in unison, and it's all in perfect timing, and each individual cylinder, even at 5,000 RPM, each individual cylinder could have a different timing on the spark plug depending on the load of the engine and the combustion within that cylinder.
Well, that must have been pretty difficult for them to figure out that, because that lag time is a very small, but important, evidently, part of how it operates.
It really is, and I'll tell you this: gasoline has 1,000 chemicals in it, 1,000 or more, and some of those chemicals burn in 1 billionth with a B of a second. And I was reading an article from Argonne National Lab, and it was about fuel and fuel burning and stratified charge and the flame front. And you see, here's the challenge. Here's a perfect world. If you sparked the spark and the flame front, there's no such thing as an explosion in a cylinder. You strike the match or you spark the spark, and then the flame front spreads across the cylinder evenly. And all of the air is used up and all of the fuel is used up. So you have no air left over and no fuel left over. If that were the case, and if that were possible, you would have no need for a catalytic converter. But all cars have catalytic converters because that's really just not possible. That's how far off we are, even though we're really, really doing a great job. So
if you were burning a gas, if the gasoline was turned into a gasification into gas, and then your mixture of your oxygen molecules with your gas is much better, and you would come closer to what you're talking about, so you wouldn't have to have a catalytic converter. But of course, to gasify that gas is something that they haven't been able to do because it takes too long to do.
Exactly, it does. And I had a caller that turned out to be one of our customers that had an idea about the oil soaking of valves. Stay right there, and folks, you stay right there. We're going to come back and finish another conversation and then invite you to call 888-227-2546. Now to our car clinic inbox. Jennifer in Indianapolis writes,
Dear Bobby, my best friend's car just died. Turns out it was the battery, and now I'm wondering if I need a new one too. What makes a battery go bad, and what should I look for in a new one?
Great questions, Jennifer. Corrosion of the positive grid is the #1 cause of battery failure. The positive grid provides the energy your vehicle needs to start. There are many factors that impact the corrosion of the grid, including extreme weather conditions, driving patterns, and age of the battery. In order to make sure you're not stranded with a dead battery, be proactive and have your battery tested after 3 years. Make sure when you buy your next battery, you look for the Power Frame logo on the outside of the battery. Batteries with Power Frame grid technology are stronger and 66% more corrosion resistant. They're designed to be more durable in extreme weather conditions, so you can count on your battery to be there start after start. To learn more and find out where you can buy a battery with a Power Frame technology, go to powerframe.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease. And she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now, you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We'll go back to Rudolph in Washington. So we were talking about stratified charges and burning of fuels. And I got to tell you that diesel fuel, of course, is very efficient and produces a lot of torque in the engine because of its design, its compression ratio, and a lot of MPG. But there are a lot of particulate matter, a lot of particles that are left over. So that's dirt. Those are dirty engines because the fuel is dirty. Gasoline is cleaner, but doesn't have the MPG. Gasoline with ethanol can be burned, and because of the octane, 113 of ethanol, can withstand higher compression ratios, and compression ratios up to 14.1, 14.2 are optimum. So you could drive a vehicle down the road and have 14.1 compression ratio without a turbocharger, and that engine will be optimal. The challenge with that is that the manufacturers have to design cars so that those engines that they put on the market can run 87 octane fuel, because 87 is less expensive than 93, and people want to use cheap fuel. So, you know, and besides, you can't make one engine that fits all circumstances, and so it's all a compromise. So, any questions there?
Yeah, well, the buildup on the valves because of the injection, and you didn't have it. The manifold intake of fuel cleans the valves. Are they going to do away, or are they going to have partial manifold injection and partial? Of course, if you have any manifold injection, if you have a lot of compression, you get pre-ignition, wouldn't you?
No, because you're on the draw stroke. You're on the intake. So but the answer to your questions, the 2017 Ford EcoBoost engine has both direct injection and port injection.
Yeah, but when you compress, compression brings heat, and heat will bring I thought it would. Now, in other words, you're saying you can put manifold in the fuel come in through the manifold the old way.
Mm-hmm.
And have real high compression, which is high heat, and not get a pre-combustion and get your ping or whatever.
Well, that's where, and see, you're touching on the technical end. That's where the anti-knock feature comes in, and that's why higher blends of ethanol are ultimately what you're going to see on the road today, because the higher blends of ethanol allow you to have your price point and your cake and eat it too. You can have, for instance, E10 is 87 octane, and E15, if you add 5% to E10 and splash blend it, then you've got 88 octane. And if you have E25 to E30, you have 101 octane. So we're going to see E25 as the sweet spot for the average consumer, because E25 at 101 octane, let's just say, is actually cheaper than E87, because the more ethanol you use, the cheaper the gallon of gas.
Well, on the high compression and the injection, if you don't have some coming in through the manifold, the throttle sensor where your butterfly opens, that would be your major guide as to the amount of fuel coming in, or when the engine is monitoring the amount of fuel put in. The old way was the oxygen sensor and the throttle sensor. Is that correct? And then
the intake is all about air, and so you've got a recipe, and you have to have 14.7 parts of fuel to 1 part of air. Air to 1 part of fuel. So for every gallon of gas, you got to have 9,000 gallons of air. So you have an air mass sensor that measures every cubic meter of air that comes into the engine. And so
how does it do that? How does that sensor do that?
They use multiple different technologies, but the simplest is a hot wire. They run a wire at 100 degrees centigrade, and if you blow across the wire, it will cool the wire. It will begin to cool the wire. So
Right.
any movement of air whatsoever will cool the wire, requiring more voltage to maintain 100 degrees centigrade. The voltage increase required to maintain a stable temperature gives you the amount of air flowed.
I see. So if you're on a hot day, the computer has to take the temperature of the air on a summer day, or if you're a real cold day, it takes that to modify what its feeling is on the wire.
Yes, sir. And it measures the ambient temperature, and it measures the cylinder, the engine temperature, and it measures the airflow over the hot wire, and that's why you may have heard people talking about. And we're going to go to Bill in Washington. So Bill, stay right there. I haven't forgotten you. People were talking about K&N air filters, and they were contaminating air mass sensors, and that just wasn't the fact at all. While it could be true that the person that bought the K&N filter would recharge it, clean it, wash it, dry it, and then spray it with oil. If you put too much oil, you damage the air mass sensor. But never would you get a new one that had too much oil in it, because they have a misting device that they spray it and they know how much to put on it. Whereas an individual might take the can of lube and just spray and spray and spray and want to oversaturate it. But the bottom line, I have in my car twin K&N filters. Never a problem. Now, so we've got an air mass sensor that measures the amount of air that goes in and the temperature of the air, and we have the computer that adds the fuel, that controls the opening of the injector, and the opening of the injector meters the amount of fuel that goes in depending on how long it's opened, and that's a dwell time, and we know the pressure that we keep. And that's also part of the. So if you know the pressure, like a faucet in your house, if you open the faucet and you have 40 psi of pressure, you get about a gallon of water in so many seconds. So and then if you really want to measure it, if you open it wide open immediately and shut it immediately, if you could possibly do that, which is what an injector does, then you know how much fuel flows. Therefore, you have a very close tuning. And then the oxygen sensors, after the fact, it says, wait a minute, you're 2 degrees off. Oh, okay, or you're 2% off. So it will fatten up, which means it adds more fuel, or it will lean, depending on its report. It's the garbage collector. It collects whatever fuel isn't burned, and it tells the computer that, hey, you've got to lean it out, you've got to fatten it up. So it's a before, during, and after test, and then. To add another complexity to it, there's another post-CAT, and this post-CAT oxygen sensor is testing the functionality of the oxygen of the catalytic converter, because there's no voltage that comes out of it. It's supposed to be flatline, because there should be no oxygen and no fuel coming out of the catalytic converter.
Yeah, they must have a pretty good steady pressure on those injectors to make the length of time.
Yes, sir.
How many 1,000 pounds or 100 pounds?
2,000 on a blower on a Ford EcoBoost, 2,000, and in fact the fuel pump is mounted on the fuel rail as all steel and direct injection, and the fuel pump is mounted on the camshaft, and the camshaft drives a positive displacement lobe and creates 2,000 psi. Hey man,
but you still have circulation of the fuel to keep it cool, so you have to have a little bit escaping from that high pressure into a low pressure circulation, don't you?
No, they run blind. They run blind into the fuel rail.
Well, if you keep the fuel in there at just a high pressure and isn't circulating, if it gets so hot, you would have vapor lock.
Not as long as you're driving, you got fuel using fuel. and it's
Well,
made.
you're using that much, and the line is that small that it still keeps it cool
Yes,
through
sir.
that.
Well,
line.
cool, relatively speaking. You know.
Right.
Okay, my
yeah.
friend. Thanks for your
Okay.
call.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Let's go to Bill in Washington. Bill, thanks for your holding. I appreciate your patience. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hi, Bobby. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm just right. Hey, I've got a 2013 Chevy Duramax. Got 115,000 miles on it. The thing runs like new. I've had people tell me put a chip in it, you get more power, better fuel economy. I get about 19 empty and 11, little over 11 pulling a 7,000-pound load. And I don't need any more power. It's got plenty of power.
Right.
Everybody talks about, oh, you need more power. No, I don't. In my mind, that engine's going to put out so much power over its life, and if you start using up more every time you drive it, the life's going to be shortened. Does that make sense? What are the pros and cons of putting a chip in?
Well, that would be true if it were under maximum power load 24/7, and that would be true. You're talking about using up the life of it. That would be true if the manufacturer delivered it under its maximum potential to output, but the manufacturer doesn't. They detune diesel engines to protect them. So your diesel engine comes from the factory detuned, and all engines, all diesels are detuned. Well, in fact, most gasoline engines are detuned, and you may have heard me talking about the Diablo Sport Intune i2 programmer that that unit tunes like an EcoBoost. Here's a good example, Bill, that the new Ford EcoBoost for the Raptor is 39 horsepower and 76 more pound-feet of torque. So it's putting out 450 horsepower now out of a 3.5 liter V6. When that EcoBoost first came out, which is my favorite engine, and I loved it, and talked to engineers at Ford and SEMA. But the bottom line, when it came out, they were getting 340 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque out of a 3.5 engine, which is amazing. Now they're getting 450 horsepower out of that same engine, and I guarantee you it's still detuned. So you're a long way from maximizing your package. Now, having said that, let's briefly touch on a programmer. There's no doubt that if I drove a diesel, I would have a programmer. Here's the challenge. The chips that you buy, and you can buy different chips and that have different programs, and there's 3 different settings on one chip. So anyway, the third one, which is the maximum, might put out 150 more pound-feet of torque or horsepower. The bottom line, in order to use that, you better have a pyrometer. You better have an exhaust temperature gauge, because you're on that threshold. So I agree with you that you would not want to run the chip in its third position, its hottest position, unless you had exhaust. And it tells you this when you put the unit on there. But if you just put a regular chip, then you pick up 100 pound-feet of torque, and you pick up 2 miles per gallon on that vehicle with no damage whatsoever and no side effects and no shortening of life, because you're still way under the threshold of what that engine can put out ultimately. Yeah, I know.
So,
it's true.
Would you recommend doing that?
I would. If I had a diesel, and I'm not a diesel guy, but if I had a diesel vehicle, I would definitely have a chip on it so that I could compare the two. And I say that again because the engines that come from the manufacturers are detuned when you get at them.
Gotcha.
It protects them.
What can a guy expect to pay to do something like that?
I don't know what those chips cost. I'm not sure. I'm curious if the Diablo Sport it works for diesels. I would imagine it would, but I haven't. Because I haven't investigated that, and because we put it on Ford EcoBoost, take a look while you're there. Check their site out, and because if I were buying a product, and I say this not because they're an advertiser or sponsor, but because I use the product and I know what it does, and it's easy to do. There's the challenge. Some of those machines and some of those chips are not easy, and you got to go to a shop and you got to run wires in series. You got to disconnect the box and connect the box in series and those sorts of things. What I like about the Diablo Sport product is that you just plug it into the data port, and it downloads the original factory tune, and then you upload your tune that you want to do. Now, I don't know that it is applicable to diesel engines, but if it were, that's the product that I would recommend because I've used that product. So take a look this week sometime, Bill, at diablosport.com, and I will do the same thing, and then next week we'll round back and we'll discuss it. You're not in a hurry to modify your diesel, but you're not going to hurt the diesel by modifying it as long as we're on the same page. And as long as you just don't go out and buy the hottest product and run your engine till it blows. I understand why you're concerned, and you should be. That's why you should collect all the facts, and I appreciate your call to me today. It was very timely.
All righty. Thank you very much, Bobby.
I thank you, Bill.
Bye.
Bye-bye. What a great opportunity for me, folks, or the way to end the program today. I'm here to help. So tune in next Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time. We're the alternative to football about this time, and there's plenty of football coming up later on. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
We're going to provide some more feedback this week on the Diablo Sport InTune i2 Performance Programmer. After a very easy installation, we were set to tune and test. The improvements were drastic and so obvious. Throttle response increased dramatically, and our tune generated more low and mid-range torque. Cold start and off-the-line response was crisper and cleaner. The transmission shift points and quality stepped up a notch, too. Wonder how your vehicle's iTune is performing? The i2 provides an easy way to find out. It actually retrieves diagnostic data you can export to a PC and play back on Diablo Sport's data viewer logging software. Regardless of your vehicle, you can buy additional licenses to tune any vehicle supported by Diablo Sport. We'll have more information about the InTune i2 in the coming weeks. In the meantime, drive to diablosport.com, and while you're there, check out the sizzling savings rebate going on through August the 31st, where you can receive money back on the InTune i2 and Trinity Performance Programmers. That's diablosport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, it starts my morning. Happy morning, your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here.